What's good? You are now rocking with the Bigs alongside Nicholas Moreano. I am Howard. We are checking in from down in the bowels of Hallis Hall here in the PNC Center. Nick, would you say that the Bears have probably done most of their heavy lifting for this first player acquisition period?
I would say so. I mean, they addressed some major needs and did some good work through this free agency period.
Yeah, I think so. And it's not that they won't dip back into the free agency pool for that second phase and maybe do a little bit of bargain shopping for a couple of other their needs. But I think for the bigger signings, I think they've pretty much completed that. And now they get a chance to look towards the draft and figure out what they want to do there.
Yeah, look, what they were able to do in free agency, Herb, it really opened things up to what they can do, whether it's the 10th pick, the 2 second rounders that they have. Like, things are open for the Chicago Bears. And before free agency began, that wasn't the case. It kind of seemed like they were pigeonholed of what they might do based off their needs, but they addressed some major needs in this free agency period.
Yeah, now you can start to hear conversations about, Genty or Tyler Warren, the tight end from Penn State. And those things have a little bit more plausibility to them now than they did, 9-10 days ago. It's like, no, don't talk to me about Genty. But now they've filled out a lot of their holes on the offensive line, a couple things on the defensive line. Maybe those things can come a real possibility for the Bears as they look towards to the draft now.
I mean, I think that's all on the table right now for the Bears because of what they were able to do. Like, you got your starting center. You got a starter opposite of Montez Sweat. So when you put all these pieces together, that allows you to be flexible. And I think that's the best position for any NFL team to be when they head into the draft. You don't want to go into it knowing, I need to address this position. I need to use this draft capital on this. When the Bears right now, it's like BPA, best player available.
They can go that route. So as you look at their roster right now and the things they have done, what would you say is still maybe the biggest need or weakness that they have?
Well, I still look at edge rusher opposite of Montez Sweat. Even though you did get Dio Odengbo, like that's a guy that's
getting used to that too.
Yeah, Odengbo, like you definitely have to get used to that one. But that's a guy that I think still wants to prove himself, right, in this league. But when I still look at it at 10, if there's a good pass rusher there, I wouldn't rule it off the board for the Bears because you can never have too many of those types of guys.
No, we heard Ryan Poles say that today several times. You just can't have too many pass rushers, and obviously the Eagles showed the blueprint for that with the Super Bowl win that they had. But I think I agree with you. Even if you just look at the Bears roster itself, I think they still need another pass rusher, right? Odengbo is a great addition. He fits the size and mold of what Dennis Allen wants for his edge rushers, and he has the great flexibility to go inside, outside, up and down that defensive line. But I think having another one, right, that can really get after their quarterback, that can really bend that corner, I think that would add extreme value to them. So you start to look at guys coming out like Mykel Williams from Georgia, Pierce from Tennessee. Which of these guys may be available for them at 10 if they choose to pick there? Because what's also on the board for them now is the possibility of trading back if that's something they want to do. But if they stand pat at 10, they've got a lot of options. But I would still look at edge rush as being their most their biggest need right now.
Yeah. I mean, look, behind those two guys, Sweat and Odengbo, you have Austin Booker. You have Daniel Hardy. You have Dominique Robinson. Like that doesn't seem like a lot of
it's not a lot of proven production.
Exactly. So when thinking about what can be added to this football team, another guy, a high draft pick that can go in there in these waves that I'm sure Dennis Allen is going to like using with his defensive line. So it's definitely on the board for the Bears at 10.
What about left tackle? What if Will Campbell happens to slide? I don't think he will. His name comes up a lot with the Bears at 10. And I don't really see a path for him to get to 10. But if he's there, is there a possibility they maybe take him and put him at left tackle? You talk about Mimbo from Missouri. The kid from Texas as well is a possibility.
Banks,
So, like, do you think that's still, like, do they just continue to go all in on O-line?
I don't think that's a bad idea either, Herb. I mean, when you're looking at this offensive line as it's configured, Joe Thuney right now, he's here for maybe a year or two. Like he's at the back end of his career. You have obviously a young guy in Jonah Jackson who you just signed, but the question is right now with Braxton Jones coming off the injury, if the Bears feel like they can get a better version of the left tackle in the draft and have him throughout his rookie contract to build with Caleb Williams, then you go do that. And I don't have an issue with that whatsoever, but I also don't have an issue if they stick with Braxton for another year. So it's going to be interesting how that plays out. But if he goes to 10, I don't know. If I was a GM, I'm running to the podium and saying draft Will Campbell. But that's the interesting part about the draft. You don't know who's going to fall, and if players like that do end up going right in your lap there, like you might as well take the good player and just see how it all plays out on the offensive line.
Don't overthink it. Don't overthink it. Lots of options, plenty of flexibility for the Bears as they head into the draft because of the work that they've done in this initial phase of the player acquisition period. Obviously, they utilize trades, they utilize free agency, and they've got themselves some pretty good players at some key spots of need for this roster. As they continue to go through it, we'll be here with you, bringing you the latest and the details from here at Hallis Hall or wherever the news should break as the Bears continue their offseason process, trying to go worst to first.
Yeah, it's a process for sure, but the Bears, I'll tell you this, like, from what they acquired so far, it seems like that process is heading in the right direction. You're building the trenches. The Bears need to do that, and they've definitely addressed it.
That's Nick Moreano. I'm Howard for the Bigs Media. It's us.